Hello, welcome to another Random Code stream. My name is Jason Bach. I've been off for a little bit um, due to sickness, but while I'm not perfect, I am feeling better, so I'll get into that in a moment. Let me get my music going. I don't know if I sound any different than what I usually do, but I definitely feel different, still feel congested, but it's better than what it was. My wife has been struggling with a cold, virus, something literally for almost 2 weeks. And she was on meds for it, and then it just wasn't going away, so they think she might have picked up another thing, and she's on meds again for stuff, and she says she's feeling better again. But, you know, she works at a school, a K through 8 school, and those are germ factories, to say the least. Man, even talking this much is is hard. I can tell that I'm still not 100% there, but she works at this school that kids just don't wash their hands, they don't take care of themselves, they don't cover their mouths when they sneeze, all that good stuff. So she picks up crap, and I was surprised I wasn't getting anything for 2 weeks. And then Wednesday, in the afternoon, I started to notice that I was starting to feel a little run down, a little congested, and Thursday I was definitely not feeling good. I still worked. Excuse me. I have, excuse me, a Kleenex box over there, and I might need to blow my nose a couple times. We'll see. But yeah, and my brain is still foggy. My brain is still not quite there. But yeah, Thursday I work because I work right there, so it's not like I have to drive anywhere. And typically I've always been like, if I do have a cold or something, I can just usually work and get through it. Thursday was rough. I could tell I was not doing well. It was hard to think. It was hard to process thoughts. And with what I do, that's what I'm getting paid for, is really thinking in a lot of ways. So I decided on Thursday at the end of the day to take a day off on Friday, and Thursday night was bad. I was feverish. I really was very congested. I was having a hard time sleeping, and I started to feel nauseous. I was like, I told my wife, I'm like, I'd much rather have a cold than the stomach flu. That, ugh. So I didn't get sick that way, but I was feeling nauseous for a little while. And then I finally got up, still wasn't feeling great. But started to drink some coffee, get some fluids in me more. And I basically spent Friday on the couch just going through my watch later list on YouTube and watching those videos. And then I took a shower to try to feel human again, and then I fell asleep on the couch for like 2 hours in the afternoon. Yesterday was starting to feel a little better. Excuse me. Obviously I'm still not there. I'm still not 100%. I can tell even just talking right now. And thinking is still a little difficult. But I do feel better than I did on Thursday. And then I thought yesterday, man, I decided yesterday I'm not streaming. I'm going to still try to rest and not do anything. We had to get groceries, so we did that. But I was like, no, I'm not I'm not going to do anything else. I'm just going to relax, watch videos. We watched a movie last night called Presence. It's from Steve Soderbergh, and it's a supernatural thriller type of movie. It's interesting in the way it was filmed. I typically don't like supernatural movies because anything can happen. Like as soon as you include the supernatural, well, ghosts can act in all sorts of ways, and I don't believe in ghosts, and I don't believe in any of that. But I will give this movie credit that I like the way it was filmed. I don't want to give anything away, although it's pretty obvious once you start watching the movie what's going on. That you discover right away. But how they tell the story and how it's filmed and the progression of things, I liked overall. I'm not sure I really liked the way the story ended, but it definitely was. It wasn't very scary. Like the trailer tried to make it a lot scarier than what it was. There's definitely moments of tension, but it was never because it was like a haunting, if that makes sense. So, but I would recommend watching it, if only because of the way it was filmed at the very least. And that enough was like really, really interesting to me. For some reason, I don't know why, but it was. So, anyway, so we watched that last night. I woke up this morning, I'm like, I'll try to do some streaming. So we'll try to finish this off. I'm now in the testing mode of this suppressor I just wrote. So I want to test the one down here for CA 2025, and then we got to write one for this case, which is getting CA 2000 on this call, even though, you know, we know that we're expecting dispose to be called on something that's disposable. And it's not up to this code here to dispose this instance, and that's what implements iDisposable. So let's get back into the testing and see if my brain can remember what in the world I was doing. So we have one for callback and we have one for return value, and that's exactly what we want. I'm starting to, if I remember right, this is yeah. It's got to be callback but 4. Yeah, because it can't be 3 because we're returning something, so it has to be 4. There is one thing in here though that I have to be a little cautious about. I want to see what happens, which is what happens if I just decide within the test itself here, like I would just say var task is equal to task from result. Okay, let's get rid of this stuff here. But this is what I'm returning. Now this is inside the callback, right? But what happens if I would do task? In that case, it would miss it because it's going, well, we're looking at an invocation and we see that it's within return value or callback. And what we're trying to see is we're expecting that it's being done directly within callback. And that might not be true. This might be harder than what I really want to do is say if you're returning something from a callback or return value, and the thing you're returning is a task type, and what it's returning is a disposable, then suppress the issue. Now, that might be much harder to do than what this simple case is right here. This is what we're trying to find, which is you're just trying to say, hey, I know the method is going to be called. I know what I need to return as a task that has a value in it. And so I'm just going to do task from result or value task from result or something like that. And so I would just put that in return value. I wouldn't necessarily have any logic within it. Although if I would, you know, that's okay, because we're looking for, is something being invoked within callback or return value that calls task from result, and what's being passed into it is disposable. I don't even know if we checked that, do we? Well, we're assuming it is. We're assuming the argument is, because we wouldn't get called here if it was any other ID, because the ID that we're looking for is CA 2025. So I believe this doesn't even get called unless you're in that situation. And then we're saying, well, it would get called because on an argument, and the argument then we know would be one of these cases. I mean, we're actually being a little bit pedantic here, and that's saying, well, the thing should be one of these. We wouldn't get the suppression invoked unless the analyzer is raising a diagnostic. I believe that's what happens. Your suppressor just doesn't get called for no reason. It only gets called in the case where a analyzer has been raised of a specific ID, diagnostic ID. So we may be okay here in that we're relying upon the fact that CA 2025 is being raised on an argument, and then we're just trying to suppress it in those cases. So I think I'm kind of talking myself out of trying to handle those. What I do want to do, though, is say, well, we want to make sure that actually, actually, we do have a suppressor test here. I'm curious. In this case, oh, okay. In this case, it is being raised, but we don't do anything with it because it's not in the right context. I would want something where our code is never even called anymore. So I know this seems ridiculous, and maybe it's because of the brain fog I have right now. Suppress when suppressor or should not be involved. And so in this case, what I'm saying is we have a class tester. We don't even have, we just have a void test async, and that just does something. And so we don't expect anything to be happening at all. No. And there you go. Now, what I also want to do, though, is in that case, is to go in the suppressor here. It shouldn't even be called. And it isn't, because so that's good. That's exactly what, again, brain not thinking well, but it makes sense. And we shouldn't actually be testing this case. I just wanted to run through that real quick in my head. And that the suppressor is only raised in the condition that of that diagnostic ID. Okay. Good. Yippee. The one thing I do want to change in these tests, though, is to make them parameterized, because we have 4 cases we want to test with different types here. And so I just want to change the type Well, can I really do that? Not easily. We could say I want this to be a task, a value task. And then that should work. So let's try it, because I don't want to write 4 separate tests. So let's say test case. And we want to have task of disposable. And then task dot from result of disposable. And so we're assuming in the test that what's going to happen is string task type, string return value. We have to put in this funky little syntax. Whoops. Like that. Okay. And so now we have to make this an interpolated stringy. And so here we want to say func of task type and then this becomes task type as well. This is that, and this is that. And then down here, what we're going to say is this whole thing becomes return value. That does work. Okay. I feel a sneeze coming on. Oh, that's been the worst these past like 3 or 4 days. On Thursday, I was getting tremendous sneezes, the best bigly sneezes. And I mean, I was like rocking it. I would sneeze so hard that you can't see it, but I have a drum set over there, and like a real drum set, not an electronic. I would sneeze so hard that the cymbals would ring, like not loudly, but you could hear them like ring a little bit. That's how hard I was sneezing. The past couple of days, I've had that where you get like a sneeze, you can feel it coming, and one of the things I usually do is either lift my head up or I try to look at a light. I don't know if it's semantic or whatever the phrase is, but sometimes that helps to actually have the sneeze occur. But when it doesn't, it's like, oh, it's the worst feeling. I don't know why. It's not like gross. It's just like, I wanted that out of my nose. And it just wouldn't go. It just wouldn't happen. Oh, well. Okay, so now this should still pass, right? Or not? Oh, crap. Are we still in that case where pipe delimiters are still causing issues in unit with test case? God, that sucks. I bet that's what the problem is. Yeah, it doesn't find any tests. But let's just to demonstrate this. If I take out this weird syntax here and I do that, now if I run the test, it's going to fail, but at least it runs. Come on, NUnit. You need to do this. You need to fix this. Let's see, I put an issue out, and I forget which one it was for NUnit, but it still hasn't fixed it. Well, there's a 4.5. I think it's in the runner, though. I'm not sure. Well, it can't hurt to update that, can it? Okay, let's rebuild. I doubt this is going to fix it. I need to really look at... Man, my eyes also. This cold, my eyes have been watering. A lot more than I've noticed in the past, and I don't know why. Yeah, it's still not working. Let me just real quick go look and see if I can find... Yeah, here's the test case. It's still open. So yeah, let me bring this up real quick. You can see my Kleenex over there. Usually don't get to see this big of a view when I'm, or at least it's much harder to see it if I'm not on full screen face camera. But anyway, so this is the test, or not the test, this is the issue. And so I put this out there and I said, you had this test and this should run, and it doesn't run at all. And then if I remove the pipe character to get a length of string that's even, it does run. So yeah, it seems like it's an issue that hasn't been checked. Interestingly enough, it works on the command line, but it does not work in Test Explorer, which is true. Let me check that real quick. And then there's a comment here on this one. Yeah, the values too. It doesn't work. And you know, as a open source contributor, I get it. There's like things that you try to do and address, and you just don't have the time to do it. When using the test explorers, test filters created and that fails. So it's not interpreting the pipe correctly. I am curious though. Let's do terminal, and let's just go to copy full path, cd that, no, that, and then .NET test. Can you just... Oh, errors. Do I have a global JSON in this? I don't think I do. Hold on. I should. Brain, no worky. I don't. And I know it's like .NET MT test platform global .json. We've been dealing with this at work because we're trying to get test projects targeting MTP, and my God, has this been like just the biggest fustercluck. I hate to say it that way, but it's true. At the root of your repo or solution. Okay, fine. So we're going to do that. I'm going to put here my global.json, and it's like somebody just did not think this. I mean, I don't want to say they didn't think it through, but it's been, we don't want the SDK in there. And I'm going to restart Visual Studio. Well, actually, no, I should be able to do this now. Oh, because, well, now it picked it up. So, okay. Solution. There we go. So it skipped 6, but that's true because it should have. There's 6 tests that I use for scenarios to show like differences between rocks and MOQ and then substitute, and I have those tests skipped on purpose because if I include them, they fail. So, hey, Electron. I just want to make sure it's skipped. So it did not. It said 1381 are passing. So just to prove things out here, I'll answer your question in just a second. Let's run all the tests and let's see what the number is here. I'm feeling better. I'm still not totally back. I still feel somewhat congested. My brain, I don't think, is working at maximum efficiency like it should, but I'm doing okay. I'll see if I can get a Alien Rogue Incursion stream in this afternoon, depending on how I feel. At least I don't have a job that I've got to be like outside roofing in Minnesota weather. Oh my God. People that do that, I have so much respect for. That kind of work is so hard. I feel very fortunate that I haven't had to do like a lot of that kind of work in my life. In fact, my entire career has been basically an office job. I did do some stuff when I was younger, like I baled hay one summer for a guy and did that. Did some more manual jobs, worked at like McDonald's, worked at a factory. When I was like in college during the summer and doing for a couple of years doing like assembly line work. So, that stuff is, you can say, well, you don't have to use your brain, but I'm like, well, one, I think you still do. And two, it's like, it's all manual labor, and that can be taxing after a while. Anyway. Okay. So 1374 passed. When we ran in here, we get 1381. So this is good. I'm going to keep this up because at least I've got this to use. Now, to get back to what I want to do here, I passed in chemistry. Hey, passing is usually the best thing. I may have said in the previous string, I think I can also pass physics, I think. Sorry, where the hell was I? Yes, we want to do value task. I think we just want to say like this. Because task from result does have, I think, if I say here, task from result, it is generic, but I think if you're just saying that you return a task, actually, no, that wouldn't make sense. Okay, that actually, sorry. We just want task and value task. You would never use task from result to pass in something that you want to return because your method is a task of string or whatever. So no, we wouldn't care about those. And that actually means then in this case, we don't care about these. And I also think then a value task, we're returning a value. So I think it would only be that. Yeah. So it's one less thing I have to do. So anyway, the story, when I was in college, I had a scholarship that would add on money depending upon my need. And that was a nice help when I was in college. But the caveat was I had to keep a 3.0 grade point average, which I was able to do. But my junior year, there was one class called, I think, was it called Digital Signal Processing or something like that? And it was taught by this guy, Dr. Fabian Jos. I actually talked to him more when I was in grad school, even though I only took 2 classes from him. But I actually ended up playing tennis with him a couple times and talking to him. And it was like, then it wasn't too bad. But man, he wasn't the greatest of teachers. But that class was hard. I found it really hard to understand what was going on, and I barely passed. And at a C, and I was still able to keep that 3.0. So that was actually motivation a lot for me to not that I didn't want to do well. I wanted to do well, but it was definitely even that much more added motivation to stay on top of things. I actually got really annoyed at, there was a frat. There wasn't a big frat program or presence at Marquette, which is where I went to college. There were some, but not a lot. I know, like, at some universities, of the fraternities and sororities are a huge deal, and I never had any. It was never an appeal to me to be a part of those things. It felt gross. So I was like, no, I don't care. But there was one called Triangle, and I think it was for the engineers. It was like an engineering fraternity. They had, again, you gotta remember, this is in the 90s, not like big, we didn't have every test computerized and everything like that. But they had drawerfuls of tests and assignments from all these teachers from every class stored there. There was like this huge repository of previous information that they could use to say, oh, this teacher's been here for decades. We'll just use like their stuff to study from. And it really bothered me in a way because I felt like it was cheating in some ways. But yeah. When you take math, like, what are you doing right now, Electron? Like, what is the math stuff that you've been focusing on? Okay, I think we've been able to make some improvements by only focusing on a couple things. Let's come back down here. See, let's run everything again. 11th grade, and it's like the same as you learn in the US. Okay, all right. But you have to remember, too, when I was in high school, that was 30 years ago. Oh, 3 failed. Oh, that's cool. Ensure tasks using iDisposable. Wow, that didn't work. It didn't work. Oh, sad me. Really? Huh, okay. Ensure task using iDisposable instances complete. You know what? 12th grade calculus, yeah. It should still work, right? It fails now. Why does it fail? I must have pulled too much. Oh, does it think? Interesting. Let me try this. Yeah, now it passes. Okay. Let me take this out because we don't have 4 cases. We only have 2. And I don't want to deal with not having a test run and remembering to run it in command line or not. So let me just copy this, and we're going to make it a when callback is used. Okay. Because you have to remember when I was in high school, that was like 1985 to 89. So when I was in 11th grade, that was Advanced Math 1. And I don't remember at all what we were doing at that point. Senior year, the farthest math class you could take, Advanced Math 2, we did start getting into what's called pre-calculus. I don't remember exactly like what we were doing, but we started getting into integrals and differentiation. And then when I was in college, I had to take 3 semesters of calculus and 1 semester of differential equations. And then I was such a glutton for punishment, I took another Diffie-Q's course, a more advanced one, when I was in college. But the funny thing is that, one, I probably should have taken a degree in mathematics or comp sci, because I think that's really where my interest was. But if I was going to do one in mathematics, I actually wish I would have done more with like number theory, set theory, linear algebra, maybe, those types of things. I've found to have much more interest in that type of stuff than other things. But so neighborhood experience software, and a second thing you well, don't get your hopes up. I don't know if I would consider myself to be cool. I do appreciate the sentiment. Okay, so before I forget, this one we can say callback. And then we do this. And that should also, except we want to do value task here. And then actually we need to make sure that this is a value task, that's a value task, that's a value task, that's a value task. Right? What does that do? Oh, that, okay, hold on. Yeah, failed. Probably for reasons. There were no... Again, brain is a little fried, so... suppress when return value is used with task. This is kind of why I wanted it parameterized, because we want to say here with value task. Okay. And so now here we say value task is a value task, value task, value task. Does this come up? Fails. Does this only happen if sorry, I got to put this code. Why am I saying sorry? I don't need to apologize to anybody. Yeah, we got this weird syntax in here. Let me get this out of here real quick. Okay, what if we change this to a value task? Does it not happen with a value task? Okay, that all works. But now we need to say value task from result. Okay, that's fine because this is the 2012 one, right? Yeah. So this is only the case for task, not value task. Okay. Sense make. Okay. So actually I went too far with this one. We just want to use task here. We want to say task from result. This should now... Right, and so this is the callback, this is the return value, and we don't care about that case. Boom. All right. Now we want to do this where we just have an arbitrary, where we have a task being returned that's getting a disposable passed in it, but it's not one of our callback or return value methods. That is the same case that we have here when value task is passed to arbitrary methods. So we want to have like suppress when task is returned from arbitrary method. So then up here, callback is used, return value is used, and we don't need to say task. This is also why I took off on like Friday, because there's I can work, like right now I can be functional and work even though I know I'm still not 100% there, but I can get stuff done. And then there's no way I could work Friday. My brain was just not there at all, and I just could not think straight. It was so hard just to like think about, okay, I got to do this and I got to do this. So, and that's I thought of going on LinkedIn and like putting in a message there to say I took a day off because I was sick, and I then make it like really businessy, fluffy crap that you see out there a lot. But just also be realistic and say to people, if you can, and if you have the ability to, because some places don't. My wife only gets a limited amount of PTO days during the year because she works at a school. They really can't afford to have people off. They know people get sick, but she only has a limited amount of days, and then if she has to take a 6 day, it's an unpaid day. So, but if she's sick, she really, really is sick, she will take a day off. And I find it so amazing when like people will take PTO, but they're still working, they're still online, they're still on calls. I'm like, what are you doing? Go. Get off of your computer. I actually get pretty mad at people when they do that. It's you have one life. And yes, I like what I do in my job. I like the job I have. I like the people I work with. That's all good. But my job is not my life. My life is my life. And, I have a family. I have kids, even though I want them to get out of the house. But I have a family, I have interests, I have friends, I have stuff like that. And if somebody is just like what they do, that's what they want to have as their focus, that's fine. But you have to realize and be cognizant of the fact that there are a lot of people that want to just experience a lot of what the world has to offer. And, and I think there is a benefit to, letting people take time off. It's blows me away when you compare the United States to Europe and how backwards we are with vacation time, sick time, the general health of people. We are so screwed up in this country. It's ridiculous. And, I've been working now for 30 years and I get 5 weeks of PTO. I was supposed to get 6, but then there was one thing our corporation did this year that I was not happy about, which is they reduced vacation. There's a lot of mergers and they had to equalize between all the companies. And so I kind of sort of get it, but I was still not happy about that. So in another 4 years, if I get that far, I'll be back to 6 weeks. And that's where I was at when I worked at the consulting company I worked at for 20 years. But it took me 15 years to get there. You started with 3 weeks of PTO. That's it. 3 weeks of PTO, 5 years you got 4, 10 years you got 5, and then 15 you got 6. I did like it. All the companies I've worked at don't have a concept of sick time, which I like, because I don't like when companies say, we'll give you 3 days of sick time. It's like, well, no, just because then you feel like you have to be sick to actually take them, and I don't like that. Just I like when companies say, we're going to give you a bucket. It's pay time off, do with it as you please. So yeah, I'm actually answering your question. I didn't even see it, Electron. How many offs can you take? And again, this isn't like government mandated. There are some rules definitely around, like if you're exempt or you're not exempt, if you're hourly, if you're salaried, blah, 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 what state you're in can matter. But there's no hard and fast rule to say that, that you get this amount of time off. It is company specific. And if I left where I work for whatever reason and I found another job somewhere, I would in all likelihood have to start at whatever they say a starting position, like not a starting position, because I'd be like, look, I have 30 years of experience, and that can be negotiated, but a fair amount of companies are like, well, when you start here, even if you're at a high ranking position, you get 3 weeks of PTO. That's just what it is. And that's also where companies make it so it's like, well, you don't want to leave, because if you leave, you essentially in some ways have to start over. It's really in a lot of ways in America not very friendly. And and I'm going to say, well, yeah, I just work a white collar job. I don't have to like literally sweat and move lumber around and exert myself that way, but it's still work. And I personally think we should have basic universal income. We should have universal health care, single payer, I think is the right phrase for it. Call me a socialist, but I'm like, I think we should take care of our country. I think we should take care of people. I think we should have just 6 weeks minimum if you're full-time or something like that. 6 weeks minimum of PTO, because PTO is so beneficial. I find it so beneficial. And if you don't want to use it, then have it where you could get like cash back. If you don't want to use that time because you literally love what you do and you don't want to take PTO, then maybe have something like that set up. But have it just like minimum 6 weeks, because there's so much benefit to just saying I'm taking a week off or I'm taking this time off. I usually have taken 2 weeks off at the end of the year for like the past 5 years. And it's a way for me just to kind of unwind at the end of the year and just relax. And I've enjoyed that so much. So that's where I'm at right now. I get 5 weeks off. Plus we get what they're called 2 personal significant days. Those are just basically PTO days that you don't have to get permission for. Technically, when you take PTO at where I work, you have to have your lead approve it, which has never been an issue. Depending upon where you work in the company, in some areas, you do have to be a little bit more cognizant about who takes off when. But where I work in the company, it's like, just give a little bit of lead time if you need to take time off, but it's never an issue, which is good. I would have a problem if I was keep getting denied PTO. That would be a problem. So you just have to submit it. Like technically you have to submit at least 2 weeks in advance or something like that, which I always know I need to take this time off. So then you submit that. The 2 personal significance days are, you could take that, like you could wake up in the morning and be like, my brain is just not there. Or I just feel like celebrating an event that has happened in our country, and I just want to take a 3-day weekend or something. You can just put that in and say, I'm not working today. I'm using one of these days, and that's fine. I like when I took time off for this, I put in an unplanned PTO day was what it's called. And typically that's just one of those things of, okay, you're sick. You don't know you're going to be sick 2 weeks from now. So like you just say, I'm taking the day off because I'm sick. And then they're like, okay, fine, that happens. No problem. Need to change your content, for example, make it interesting. Yeah, I could. I've not been really interested in that. I am not going to be doing thumbnails that are like, or the face. No, I'm not doing that. I will never, ever, ever, ever do that. I think that looks shitty. Okay, I used a PG word. But I hate it when thumbnails do that. I have thought of doing it, but then that's more work on my end, and I'm like, I don't want to. But I get the point. It would probably help a little bit, but it is what it is. I heard it's illegal in the U.S. to not give offs. I am not a lawyer, and I am not well versed in the legalese of employer contracts and agreements and all that other stuff. So I can't state yes or no to that in some jobs. Are those my degrees? Yes, there's actually two. That one, there's one above it. The one above it is the bachelor's. That one is my master's. Yeah, that kind of thumbnail doesn't look good, but people do that. I think it's the this coding trick shocked me, or they go like, or it's like, no, just don't. It looks so stupid. Stop it. I don't care if YouTube even favors it. I'm like, no, I'm never gonna do that. Not even as a joke. I can promise you that I will never ever do that. I think that looks so stupid. Ranting by Jason, but I can't. I think it just looks bad. So anyway, but I do get the point about having better thumbnails. Maybe at some point in my life. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, where am I? Okay. Rant mode off. So I think we have the callback. We got the return value. Arbitrary method. Yes. So we don't want any of this. We don't need any of this. We actually don't even need rocks for this. We just need a method that returns a task. And we'll just say it's a string. And this returns, because it's going to be a task from a result. And we'll just put in 5. And then the rest of this goes away. And if I remember right, it is going to show up, but we're not going to suppress it. That failed. Why did that fail? I hate this window. I hate this window with a pen. The markup location was not found in the input. Oh, I forgot about that. Oops. And then what is it? Just blah. Okay. Still failed. Oh, because I'm an idiot. We would need a... We have all that there for a reason. Okay, hold on. Again, brain not worky. So... and then we pass that into here. So we have a disposable, returning a disposable, so it should raise it, but now we're not going to do anything with it. Still failed. You can make a thumbnail for me. I'm not saying I'm going to use it. I at some point I will probably, would help if I returned. There we go. There we go. Okay. So now I think I have all the tests in place from a unit testing perspective for this. How are we doing on running all the tests? Okay, so I think we now have git commit 396 all tests for CA 2025 unit tests. Okay, so now if I go back to my list here, so we did that. Well, we're not done with the test. We want to have an integration test in here. And we did one a couple streams ago for this one. So we want to have one for Suppress CA 2025. Okay, and so now what we want, let's clean things up here a little bit. We want to have this, right? And then we want to have something that does that. So we want to create a I return disposable task, create expectations. All right. Good talking to you again, Electron. See you later. So we want the return value here. And to do that, we're going to want a using var disposable is equal to a new disposable. And except here we want to say task from result. But that is no longer a problem. So we can say mock here, we can say mock var mock disposable is equal to await mock to async, and then we should be able to assert that the mock disposable is the same as disposable. And this is I don't know if you can hear that behind me. Very loud. We live like 2 blocks away from a hospital, and rarely, but at times, we do get a Flight for Life helicopter coming in, and man, they're loud. So okay. Oh, no, we want to do it as a callback. Okay. So we want to say here, callback. And then what we can actually do is pull that out, and we can do this. And that, and say return. And that, except here we do that. And again, this doesn't light up anymore because we're suppressing it. find, capture it. There we go. And that should work. Boom. Okay. And it's not value task, but I'm fine with it not being value task as well. We could do do task async. We could do value task async. Okay, fine, Jason, do that. Value task async. Create task using return. This should now be do task async. And we want to do to task async here. And we want to say create task using callback. And then we say do task. And then do task. Sure. And then we want two other cases where it's value task. I was just being lazy. I knew I should do this, but I'm like, I saw it. I saw it there for a second. There was a little red there, and then it went away. So, and then we say create value task. New value task. That needs to be a value task. Actually, we could in those. Hold on one sec. Let's make sure all these tests pass. Yep, they do. We can, in these cases, just get rid of this and say that. Well, no, we need that there. But just make the syntax a little smaller. One of the things about being sick is that I haven't worked out in like 4 or 5 days, which I don't like. But my elbow has been feeling better, and now I'm noticing it's a little bit sore this morning. So I should go to a doctor and have that checked out. But. I think we're pretty good with this suppressor, and then there's one more we got to write. All right, I think the work for 396, not the whole thing, CA 2025 suppression is complete, I think. Sure, save and commit that. Let me just run the 8-minute big code generation thing. It shouldn't cause a failure, but I always feel good about testing or running this. While this is going on, what we can also do is say, not that, not that, not that, not that. That's something else I'm going to work on after this is done. Come back to this one. So this is, if we're making a call on a method called instance, and that is on something that is an expectations object. So it derives from expectations. I think that's the thing I want to keep in mind here. And what it's returning is something that is disposable in and of itself. So we're saying here we have something that is disposable. We are expecting dispose to be called on it. So when we call on the expectations to make an instance of it, it's returning something that implements iDisposable. If that's true, then what we want to do is just say, in the case where we're getting CA2000, if it's from a method invocation, that I gotta look at how this is actually working, but we want to now say if it's from an instance call on an expectations, you can ignore that because we're expecting the thing that is using the instance, the mock instance, to actually call dispose on it. So you can ignore that. So that's the other one we want to write. So, while all my testy testerman things are going on in the background, I'm almost thinking we should move the suppressors into their own. Nah. So what is 2000 actually called? Yeah, dispose objects before losing scope. Okay. Easy. So what do we want to call this? Disposable instances suppressor. Sure. Disposable instances from expectation suppressor. I like that name. And I bet you do too. Disposable instances from expectations. Expectations suppressor. All right, copy pasta time. A suppressor that will suppress CA 2000 when a, we can reference this here, cref I disposable when an I disposable based reference is returned from an C instance call on an expectations is in that library, so we can't do that. C on an expectations based instance. That makes all the sense in the world. I agree. Okay, so we need to do that. Should make it public. Oh my god. So I've said this sometimes as a joke. And it's like, what am I complaining about here? I'll show you in a second. So public. Zoom in on that. How do you think you could misspell that and get in trouble, even though you didn't mean it? What letter do you think you could remove from public? Like you're just typing fast and you don't realize what you did, and you look back on it and you're just like, oh, yeah, pubic. That, you know, that's one, you know, nobody's meaning anything by it, and it's a mistake anyway. Well, I had something a couple days ago. I was changing some stuff, including documentation. So this was in documentation. Okay. So it wasn't failing. It wasn't like a compiler error, but I had typed in account, or that was the word there, or I was trying to change it, you know, or I don't remember what it was, but I did my PR, and then somebody in the team noticed that there was a spelling mistake, and so she just said, you know, that's misspelled. I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to type what I put in, but I reversed the O and the second C. And I didn't realize, I just was typing so fast I didn't even realize it. And so I went, oh crap. And I immediately went in and fixed it, and I was like, yikes, I put in for my comment. And I texted her in Slack, and I was like, I really did not mean to do that. And she's like, mean to do what? And I said, what I actually misspelled. And she's like, what do you mean? And I said, did you actually look at what I misspelled? And then there's a pause, and then she replies with like, ha 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 ha. And she was just like, she goes, my brain registered you misspelled it, but I didn't actually look at what you typed. I was like, yeah, that was a bad one. That was a bad one. So yeah, human resource spelling mistakes can be problematic at times. Okay, so we're gonna need all this stuff, right? And we're gonna need a descriptor, right? And we want to call it this. So not that. Okay, and this should be suppress ZA, not Z. The guy was watching me from the UK would catch that. Suppress CA 2000 on instance invocations. 17, sure. And this is suppressing 2000. Okay. Reports targeted. So now what do we want to do in this case? This is going to be reported. Did the test finish? Yeah, they did. I didn't expect anything to fail. If I go back to my... I think it's going to be on an invocation expression syntax. And so we just have to look then at the name of it and what it's hosted on, I think. So we can do a little bit of copy pasta here. Blah, 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 blah. If the node is an invocation expression syntax, invocation. We get the semantic model. What we want to do, though, is we don't need to go parent. We just need to say, we want to get the invocation method as that. Okay, and if it's not null, we don't need to do any of this either. Okay. We'll come back to block code. It's fun that the block like that doesn't cause an error. Because the block... Yeah, you're back. Okay, fine, you're back. Did you study enough? The block actually doesn't throw a compiler error. But why would you just want a separate block like that? I don't know. I don't know why. Do I have any more coffee? Yes, I do. Joy of joys. I should probably drink tea, but I don't like tea. But hot beverages are good, even though coffee is kind of bitter. All right, so we want to say, for example, if I go to any of my integration tests, any of them, and I look at one of these, they all derive from Rock's expectations, okay? So what we want to say is if the method name, an invocation method name is equal to instance, and the invocation method declaring containing type derives, don't we have a derives from? gotta have that somewhere in my code. I gotta have that kind of thing. Or you could say equals. And I don't need get match. He is open generic. He is pointer. Get inheritance hierarchy is fine. I also don't like tea, but my mom made me drink it every time I say no to tea. Actually, there is a tea that we do have around, and my wife sometimes, I have had it in the past when I've had a cold, is she'll make it and then put a little bit of honey in it, and that's not too bad. Tea has always been to me hot, ill-flavored water, and I just don't care for it. Other people love it, and I'm like, great, that's wonderful. I'm not going to say don't. I personally don't really like it. And it's not for lack of trying. I've really tried. I want to go here, and I want to see, do I have something in here? God, there's so much I want to do. Is it? No, it's not in this one. It's in a, what am I? Again, brain fog, thinking bad. Is it in here? Yeah, I have a derives from. I want to take like all these little helper methods that I've made that I keep just pushing into each one of my projects and have one that I can just reference from all of these. So I don't keep repeating this code, but that's just not easy to do. And here's the kicker. Do I have... Let me look at analysis tests. I don't even have any tests around this, which I should. But I've been thinking the past couple of days. There's a couple of high overarching projects or activities I really need to do. One of them is this thing, which is taking all these extension methods and things and bundling them into a specific NuGet package that you can use, or at least I can use from other projects. Now that has its own problematics in that if I want to update it, I've got to then add it to that one, and then I've got to publish that to NuGet, and then I've got to come back here and then reference it. But I think that would help just in terms of code sharing and not having this massive code spread everywhere. The other one is in Rocks and just cleaning up the code base. There's a lot of repeated code that I have in, and it's just not really good at all. And I should take the time to just sit down, because at this point I'm not getting like any requests to add in a whole bunch of features for good, bad, or indifferent. So maybe I should take the time to go, okay, let's actually go through and clean up the code base and get some better stuff in there. So, do you watch any sports? No, not really. I used to watch football. Well, American football. A lot when I was growing up. And I would watch, like basketball. Or, I mean, if I'm at a bar and it's on, I'll watch it. I know what the rules are. I generally keep up with, because it's just the way my brain works. I catch things here, there, and everywhere. If like the Winter Olympics has been on at a bar, I'll watch it, but it's not like something I need to do. Like I used to have to watch every Green Bay Packers football game because I was a diehard, dedicated Packers fan. Growing up in Wisconsin, you're almost required to be one. And when I was growing up, they sucked. They were horrible. They had a couple of good runs in their past, but I was born after the Vince Lombardi era, and man, did the Packers stink for like 15, 20 odd years. And then they got Mike Holmgren in as a coach, and they got Brett Favre, and they got Reggie White. And they started getting into the playoffs. They started getting farther into the playoffs. And then they finally made it to the Super Bowl, and they won. And it's weird because I think it's a combination of just at that point in my life, I was now in my mid-20s. And I think I was starting to just lose interest in making this a weekend thing all the time, and like getting either so mad or upset or whatever. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Why am I basing my happiness or sadness around if a team that has no impact on my life is winning or losing, you know? But I finally got to see my team win the Super Bowl, and they went the next year and they lost to the Broncos. And I don't know. I think a lot of things kicked in that I just started to lose interest in football and watching sports in general. You know, football too, with the CTEs and the brain injuries and stuff like that. You know, that was also not fun to actually watch guys getting their brains actually, you know, rocked. It's like, oh, that's a hard hit. And it's like, yeah, that person's also now like, how damages their brain from doing that? I don't know. It was hard to start to watch some of that stuff. So your camera's lagging. Really? I don't know. I'm seeing it in OBS, and it's not perfect. I have noticed it does lag a little bit here and there. But I'm not noticing any drop frames in the stream. So at least OBS isn't reporting any. The camera's not like a very expensive camera. It's a creative live cam, so does the job. But no, I don't watch a lot of sports. Okay, let's where was I babbling from? We did this. Where was I? Yeah, here. Okay, so what we want to say is does the containing type derives from, and here what we want to do is actually use this. So what we want to say here is it doesn't derive from a type called rocks expectations. So again, if we look at this code, that's the name that we're looking for. So if you derive from expectations, and there will be at least one method called instance. There may be more depending upon how many constructors there are. I guess we could be defensive and say, well, no. That makes it harder because we can't put it all in the if. Can you? As base type. No, you can't. You can say if something is that, and then give it a name, and then do that. But that's not really what we're trying to, because it's not a method symbol, it'd be a type symbol. Is I type symbol expectations. Okay, well, I guess, yeah, this will work. Okay, then we can suppress it. Boom. Done. Time to drink. I will not be drinking alcohol until I'm fully back. It's not like I drink a lot of alcohol, but I do like my occasional beer or wine, and I have been abstaining until I finally feel better. Although some people would say the best medicine is a little bit of whiskey or schnapps. But no, I'm not going to do that. What was I going to say? The one thing that I was actually like on Friday, I'm like, I got to have my coffee because I need my caffeine. I would suck. Like, if I'm in a hospital and I don't get caffeine, I'm going to start to go through withdrawals. That's not good. That's not good. It's like a person that is smoking and they're in the hospital. How do they get outside and smoke? You know? So anyway, just inject it in my vein. If I'm in a hospital, just put the coffee right in there. Make it cold though. I don't want a hot run through my veins. Okay, so we look for the type. We say, does the invocation called instance? We don't care how many arguments it has. That doesn't matter. And we're only going to get called this if the thing that returns from instance is is disposable. So that's the only time that this is going to be called, because if we look at as we were looking before, look at this, this should be CA 2000. Oh, no, wait. This is wrong. Didn't we just put a descriptor in? Yeah, that's the one we want. That would be bad. Good thing I caught that. That's 2000. Okay, good. Okay. Do I smoke? No. I don't smoke. I used to. But that was very, very intermittent. I was like in high school. I mean, back in the 70s and 80s, especially growing up in Wisconsin, you basically, when you're born, you're given a Miller in one hand or a Blatz and a cigarette in the other. I've always made that joke. And I think Wisconsin has like per population averages like the most cases of people that are alcoholics or drink a lot. And I mean, it's a sad statistic, but it's true in the entire country. And you know, when I was growing up, especially as I became a teenager, you know, you had to be tough, and you had to, you know, it was the 80s metal craze, and you had to have the long hair, and you know, started to hang out with people that were smoking. So I started smoking. My parents smoked. My mom smoked more than my dad. So, and other people in my family smoked. I mean, I grew up also at a time where you could go on a plane and you could smoke. You could go into a restaurant and you could smoke. You could go to a bar and you could smoke everywhere. And it's like, Jesus, it's so bass backwards compared to what it is now. So I did off and on, but it wasn't like a daily thing. It was kind of like more when I would hang out with people or whatever. But it was, again, we're not talking chain smoking. We're not even talking I needed a cigarette every day. It was just off and on, more when I was hanging out with people than anything else. And it was only for like a year or two. So very, very intermittent. So I would say by the time I was 16, I stopped doing any of it. And again, it was not even that much to begin with. The strange thing is that I still will occasionally, even to this day, will get not like an uncontrollable urge, but I'm like, it'd be nice just to have, like, I'll have a cigar once a year or so. I mean, I don't mind having a cigar once in a while, but I haven't had one in like 5 years. And even when I have one, it's like once a year at best. But I will occasionally have one. In fact, after I got married, it wasn't because I was stressed about my marriage. My marriage to my wife has been fantastic. We get along really, really, really well. But for whatever reason, I wasn't feeling stressed, but I just had this urge. And at the time when we were married, I was working during the day. And so she was working a part-time job that I'd have to get home in time so she could get my car. And then she could go to a job that she worked only like 3 hours. It was more like a 5:30 or 6 to 9 shift or something like that. And so I had this tackle box from my electrical engineering school that had all my electrical components in there. And I didn't want her to know that I was smoking. So I kind of hid the pack in the, because when we met, she was like, "Do you smoke?" I'm like, "No," because I didn't. And she, you know, we both talked about that our parents smoked, and her dad stopped. Her mom didn't, but her dad stopped. after having their third kid. She was the sixth. And he stopped cold turkey, and he hadn't had one since. And so we were both like, yeah, we don't like smoking, and we don't like going to places that have smoke, because you walk out of there and you feel like you're a cigarette from all the secondhand smoke. But I don't know. There's just something about that time that I'm just like, I had kind of a desire to have a cigarette. And so I go outside and have one or two. And she was like bored when she would not be working during the day. And so she was like cleaning obsessively a lot at times. And she actually went into the tackle box. She's like, what is this? And she found those. She's like, why do you have these cigarettes in here? And I was like, all right, I feel really bad. She's like, you're an adult if you want to smoke. I'm not going to like stop you, but I was kind of curious why you did. So I was like, yeah, I know. And I kind of felt a little guilty. So I got rid of them. And I think I've only had from that point till now, maybe 2 in 30 years. It's just, if they didn't have a health risk, I probably would still be doing it. Maybe like 1 or 2 a day, just because there's something about it that I do enjoy, like having a cigar, or having a glass of whiskey or a beer or something like that. But there's massive health risks with it. And I can't do that. And to see how people get really insanely addicted to them, that they can't quit is bad. That's my lesson on smoking. You can give me a piece of advice. I don't know if I'll take it or not, but you're more than welcome to post it if you want. Okay, let's see if we can get tests around this thing. I will say this: when I did smoke, I used to just like, oh, smoke, I'm gonna look really cool. And then somebody's like, you're not inhaling. And they're like, no, you need to go and get it all in your lungs. And the first time I did that, I thought I was gonna die. But then I also realized, oh, that's where you really get the effects of cigarettes. So anyway, I think that's it. I think if we get this, we should be able to suppress the invocation. So let's make a test. Where do we put tests? We put them here. Okay, so let's come back here. What do we call this? Oh yeah, I gotta go find a freaking class. What would that be? Let me take a guess. Expose objects before losing scope. I wonder. Would that be it? Is that an analyzer? Looks like an analyzer. Looks like the rule. We'll take it. Where is this? Well, I don't know that, but we'll just do that. Okay, suppress when dispose is returned from instance. I think we're going to need at least one. Okay, and then we need that and that. We have the wrong code that we wanted to grab from, though, I think. I think we wanted to do something like this. By the way, if you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed, please do so. I would appreciate it. Why is OBS like showing hearts? Somebody must have hearted something. But I can't see what people hearted. I can't tell. There's somebody that he's in high school, and when I do self-defense, he's there on Thursday. His name is Colin, and like a week or two ago, he said something about watching me stream. It was either Halo or whatever, and he was like, "Did you see what I was typing?" And I'm like, "No," and he looked really disappointed, and he was like, "I was like watching your stream and I was typing comments." I'm like, "I didn't see them. I don't know why they didn't show up here, you know." But they didn't, so I felt kind of bad. So anyway, how are we gonna do this? I'm trying to look to see if we make something that implements expectations in the test. We say public class my expectations that derives from expectations, and then we say public void verify, just so that we don't get a compiler error. And then we have our testy testerman class, which we say test here. I'm not new and I am subscribed. I know, but it's just like I should still be able to see their comments when they're coming through. So it shouldn't matter how long you've been subscribed. At least I don't think it should. Okay, so we have something that derives from expectations. And then all we want to do here is say it has an instance method on it, public disposable instance, that returns a new disposable. So we don't need to do that here. We just say test. We say new my, well, okay, fine, hold on, wait, let's do this. Var expectations is equal to new my expectations, and then we're going to just do that. A discard is equal to expectations dot instance. Read my advice. What advice? Are you talking about here or in the Discord? Because I don't see anything here. Sorry, I had to check that real quick. Okay. So we're expecting with the location. Let's get that funky syntax in here. I believe it's going to do it around this, but it could be wrong. Advice, don't take and eat anything from strangers. Well, that's good advice. Though, if you go to a restaurant, aren't they strangers? I know what you're getting at. I'm just being pedantic. Hey, guy, am I feeling better? I'm feeling better. I'm still not 100%, but I am feeling better, especially from what I was Thursday night, Friday morning. That was feverish, achy, headache, just blah. I wasn't puking. I didn't mean that, but I was definitely not feeling myself. And so I did the right thing, which is I took a day off and I just lounged around. I did make some good progress on my watch later list on YouTube. I really nailed that, so that's good. All right, does this work? I don't know. I have no idea if this is going to work. Doesn't work. Never works the first time, right? I hate this window. How many times have I said I hate this window? My expectations does not implement interactive. Yes, it does. Don't tell me what it doesn't do. Right there. It's an abstract method. Verify. It's an abstract class expectations. I know what I'm doing. Or do I? It's quite possible I don't. Let's plop this in here and see what I'm not doing. Okay, so then... Oh, am I supposed to say override? Did I forget that? Ew. See? Brain no worky. Brain is not working. Instance. Shut up. I don't need that. This will be curious to see if it does. Yeah. Yeah, so, okay, well that's, so it's actually the whole thing there. It's not just that part. It's, we need all of this. So that's good to see. I should have done that in the first place. Let's just, I don't want, we just want to suppress this because we don't need this showing up. Although I don't think it's going to matter. Let's put that up there. Let's take all this, do that. Okay. Now what does it do? Strangers have the best candy, especially if they're in a windowless van. Or they're on the Epstein Island. That's bad. It's actually weird. Oh, but I totally... What did I just say? Come on. People, you're supposed to be helping me out. I'm kind of experiencing a little bit of a handicap in the way my brain is working this morning. I need help from chat to, like, debug for me. Oh, it's a... It was a warning, okay. Okay, that's fine. That's in the suppressor, right? In the descriptor, right? No. I know it's somewhere. Yeah, right there. I was like, I know it. Damn it. Okay, what did I screw up on now? I think it didn't get suppressed. I think that's the problem. So if I change this to false, then the test is going to pass, but that's not right. Yeah, so we need to get this to true. Okay. What language is this? Rust Python. I get this a lot. Rochambeau. I'll kick you in the nuts. C# for musicians. Oh, God. This is C#. To answer the original question, this is C#. But I get that kind of question a lot. What is this? This is C#. Is C# for musicians? Yeah, it is. Ha ha ha. So, do I have any more coffee? Yes, I do. A little bit more. But a little bit more is better than none at all, right? I should get a sponsorship from the coffee that I drink. And then just say it every time I'm doing a stream, you know, like, this stream fueled by, and then put it out there for just a second. That'd be cool. Okay, so we got to get into why it isn't doing what it needs to do. So it's not this. It's not this. It's this. Let's see what it is. What's coming. Put it, there you go. I love C# but my love for Microsoft and Gates has greatly diminished over the past 20 plus. Oh, it never even got there. Well, that's interesting. It's 2000. Can you put a... Thank you. Okay, so we did get there. I love C# but my love for Microsoft and Gates has greatly diminished over the past 20 plus years. Hopefully Honors isn't in the Epstein files. Yeah, there's that. Yeah, it's pretty obvious that Bill Gates was into some awful shenanigans. I mean, his ex-wife has come out and basically said that's why she divorced him. And I hope he fries for that. I really, really hope he and anybody else involved with this, like you're seeing with the former Prince Andrew, Electron. I don't know if you've caught wind of that, but who is Anders Hausberg? He is basically considered the father of, well, he created Delphi, which was a tool in the 90s that was like a competitor to Visual Basic. Created it. He was really like the responsible for the language under Pascal and stuff like that. And then Microsoft hired him. He was the one that basically was the lead for designing C# and was that for a while. And now he's been the lead for TypeScript for like the last, I don't know, 10-ish years, and been purely focused on that. And so Guy is being jokingly, let's be clear, Anders not in the Epstein files. But Anders is has been a very well-respected, highly regarded technical person. I think he's like a technical fellow at this point at Microsoft, which is like an ungodly title that you get at Microsoft. So I think Guy is mostly getting at the point of the fact that Bill Gates was in the Epstein files, and I think there are lots of people, lots of high-ups from various political persuasions and that have done horrendous things and need to be accountable. Now, does that make me go, well, I'm never going to use C#? No. You know, it's also, I would say the vast majority of people at Microsoft had no idea what Bill Gates was doing. Where I work, there's thousands of people that work there. And do I know if people are doing horrendous things on nights, weekends that I have no privy to? No, and I'm not, and I wouldn't be responsible for that. Neither should people at Microsoft or any other company that's like had no idea what was going on. I think companies should be loudly stating where they stand on these things and standing for what's right. That I don't get how you cannot do that, because that's just, it's so horrible to hear about that stuff. Object Pascal, that was the right. Yeah, it was I was saying Pascal, Object Pascal. Delphi. Yeah, Delphi. I said that. Yeah. Go. Brain no worky. But, you know, Microsoft, I thought, actually got better over the years than worse. And I'm starting to see, though, I would say in the last 5-ish years, I think they've made some turns for the worse again. And they have lost, but I think it's a lot of companies. I think the whole AI hype craze has become ludicrous. I can't even say it. It's ludicrous. We'll just say that. It's not to say the technology is ludicrous. It's not this, in some senses, neural networks, language models, these have been in research and in the works for decades. So, there's a lot of things in what I do as a software developer that the technology is interesting and there's applicability to it, like the idea of having immutable models and immutable data sources. Great, wonderful. There's a lot of good around it. But when you start getting into the whole, I can't even remember the name of it, but it got really hyped. Smart contracts, it was in financial sectors, and it got way overblown. And then the whole idea around NFTs was ridiculous that it got so hyped. Why would anybody get fooled into that? That was so ridiculous. I think that there is some applicability with LLMs. I use them on my day job. I don't use them here because I like to actually use my brain here. Consider this to be working out in the gym and you're watching me work out. That's what I'm doing here. But I'll use it at work to potentially do like some code generation, some things like that. I'm not against that. What I am against is, one is the complete ignorance that people have around the economic and also environmental impact. I think to just dismiss it is insanity. That's one. The stealing of copyrighted and trademarked information is also horrendous. You are not being creative by putting in a prompt to say, I want a book that's written in the style of Stephen King that has these characters, blah, 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 write me a book. It's like, no, that's not being creative. Do it, So, yeah. And you just said here, I think, let me see here. Things are flying by. What was my first smartphone? Smartphone. I guess it depends on what you call smart. I actually got a cell phone in 1998. That was the first. So I wish I would have kept all my cell phones in a way, because this one, it wasn't like the thing that you had in the Matrix where it shot up like that, but it did have something that you could push up, and the thing was a little bulky, but it wasn't huge either. And that was kind of cool. I was like, ooh, I have a cell phone. But we still had the landline phone in the house or the apartment for many years. And now it's funny that kids these days have no idea what a landline phone is. But the first smartphone I had, I guess it depends on what you call a smartphone. I had flip phones and stuff like that for a while. And then I did get a Windows mobile phone that it was I'll just use this as an example. Say this was the phone, you'd flip it, and then you could push up the screen, and then there was a tactile keyboard that you could. I love that thing because you could actually feel what you were typing. It was not a BlackBerry, but it was kind of like that concept. That was kind of cool. I'd say though the first smartphone I got was a Windows Phone 7, and I will, to my dying days, I will admit I was a Windows Phone fanatic. I love Windows Phone. And I thought it was better than an iPhone or an Android, and I will stand by that till my dying days. I thought it was better, but it was third, and it didn't win. So now I use Androids. So let's see. Yeah, I know people were if they like Delphi, they were fanatical about Delphi. that they just love Delphi. And, you know, it was like, okay, great. I tried it and I didn't understand it. And I knew VB pretty well. And so I'm like, I'm not going to try to whatever. And then the whole client server mentality tools started to fade rather quickly. Anyway, programming keeps my brain sharp. I can tell. Yeah, I mean, it's not even programming per se. It's solving problems, and programming is a way to do it on computers. But it's just if you are given a word problem or something, or just a problem in general, just trying to solve it. If all you do is go run to a prompt and say, "How do I do this?" You're assuming the LLM is going to be able to do that for you, and it's going to be more than happy to try to give you a solution, even if it's not correct. It's not magic. It's not magic, people. You know, and I don't go to a gym and bring a forklift with me to lift the weights. I go to, well, down the hall because that's where I have all my weights, but I go there and I will lift the weights. I get on the elliptical and run on that for 30 minutes. You know, I don't have a robot do it for me. It's not to say that those aren't helpful, but again, I keep making this analogy. You use it for when it's needed. And I think there's a lot of value and benefit in problem solving. It keeps the brain active, in my opinion. So I totally agree with that. Your parents' 26th anniversary. Well, tell them congratulations. That's awesome. I have been, see you later, guy. I have been, this year, I'm going to be married. This year would be 29 years. Got married in that long ago. So been around a while. Yeah, I used to remember my mom or something saying that they had a 25-year high school reunion. I'm like, 25? Oh my God, you're old, you're ancient. And I don't even know, like, what would my high school reunion be if it was, I graduated then. So in like 3 years, it'd be 40-year anniversary. Jesus, I'm old. Old is a state of mind. Anyway, okay, so why isn't this working? Wait, see? See? This is why we use tests. Because when I copy pasta and it doesn't work the way I thought it would, it shows up. I had the wrong class in there, so I was giving the wrong ID. Oh well. Now it passes. All right, cool. You got married 4 years before my parents. Yeah, sounds like it, yeah. I'm guessing your parents were probably married or 2000 or 2001 or something like that. So we don't even need that. Yeah, I'll make reference. Like, even it's weird to think that the Lord of the Rings movies are older than my kids. And of course, they watch them, so they know them. But like, if I make references to Office Space, which used to be such a big thing when I was, when it was around, because everybody was like, "Oh my God, that's so relatable!" Like in terms of how corporations and the work environment was, and what's Y2K? Like, that's now 26 years ago. Like, people are like, what is that? What is Y2K? And they don't even understand what the problem was or what the reference is. So, but yeah, I'll make references to Office Space, and they're like, we'll have interns on our team sometimes, or, there's people that are new to programming or software or whatever, and they come in and work, and you make their reference and they just look at you like, what? Like, they have no, it's like, okay, you need to go watch Office Space. But then it's also kind of dated at this point. It doesn't, I'm not saying there's just some parts that don't relate anymore very well to what you do as a work, your day-to-day work now. So there's things like that, but there's some things in there that are still kind of funny. So anyway, so we have this. Now we also want the case where it's not one of our methods and we don't care. Suppress when it's supposed to turn from instance invocation not on expectation. So we're just going to take that off, and we're going to take that off. And this should now be false. Boom. Run all the tests again. It looks like a square root sign there. I know it isn't, but it looks like a square root sign. That all passes. Cool. So all we need now is an integration test to show that this works. Let's commit this real quick. 396. CA 2000 suppressor seems to be working. I think we're almost done with this feature at this point, I think. We want to have suppress, 2000 tests. What are you doing, Dave? 2001. Nobody gets that. Okay, so we want 2000 there. We want 2000. So we want something that we can mock that is an iDisposable. So we want to say I am disposable and you iDisposable. And you can do something void do. We don't care what it is. Oh, what are you complaining about? Is this some naming thing? Oh, perform work. God. You annoy me. And this. And so we want to say, just create. And we don't even have to be async. Right? Because we're going to do here, I am disposable, create expectations. Expectations, we are going to expect that dispose is going to be called on it. And look at that. We are not getting an error on instance, which is nice. So now we say var, we say mock.dispose, and that's enough because that should validate, right? And it does. God, I can't even drum right. Okay, so yippee. Let's now put into, where's the change log? It's in the package, right? No, is it in? There. Added suppressors for CA 2000 and CA 2025. And the issue is 396. Yay. Okay. Let's do the biggie test here. And then let's get this running. What? Whatever. Make sure all those pass. Everything passes. We're all good. And then we can put this issue to rest. While this is going on, I'm well past the time I usually do. I usually only do like hour-long streams for coding. But I haven't done one in a while, so I kind of wanted to go a little overboard today. The next thing I'm going to work on, let's close all that out, is this one. And I don't think I'm going to start this today. I'll leave this for one, maybe like tomorrow morning or Tuesday morning. But this is on the serialization formatter that I created for CSLA, which is a business object framework that my friend Rocky has been working on for 30 odd years. And what I did here is I created a custom serialization formatter that uses source generators, and it's much faster than the default one that is in CSLA. So that's been a really good, I think, productive, not just proof of concept, but something that should work. But it's also one of those things that I want a lot of people to use it, to find things that are issues. And somebody has found a couple, which is good. But the one that came up a couple days ago was, okay, and Rocky, he's a great guy, consider him to be a good friend, but he posted this, and I'm like, he basically posted all of this, which wasn't even markdown formatted. I had to go back in and like change it so it was easier to read. And it was like blah, 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 blah. And I'm sitting here going, what's the problem? And you can see I edited this. What it really came down to is, if you look at the conversation, I'm like, what is it that I'm supposed to do? What is the problem? And then Rocky says, I think the key line is this one thing, which is if the object, once you deserialize it, it's only on deserialization. Once you deserialized it, if it also implements this interface, you need to call deserialize. This is a notification to the business object that it can be told, hey, this is now all deserialized. You can now do something else in the flow if you want. Okay, so that's part of the serialization process. And I wrote, I'm internally screaming, sounds good, which he laughed at. I will do the actual work on this probably tomorrow morning or Tuesday morning. And it should not take long. Famous last words. But I wanted to bring this up because this came up into a conversation I saw on another Discord server for C#, which is one of the things that really annoys me about people using AI generation tools is that they're basically saying, like, write this out for me. That's obviously it's more than this. Rocky used a prompt that basically said, how does like deserialization work in CSLA? Even though he's the maintainer of the framework, the one who created it, sometimes you forget how things actually work in the thing that you're supporting. And so he had an LLM go through like the entire code base to try to figure out like what are the things that you need to do. Okay, that's all fine. My screaming into the universe is to people is to say, look, if you want to have this here for reference, fine. One thing, make sure that it's actually still true. Don't just put it in there because you think it's right. It probably is in this case, but that's just a general comment. Don't just assume that what an LLM is giving you is correct. You have to verify it. I will say that to my dying days, and it's not even an LLM thing. It's just a standard practice. Validate input, trust but verify. All these things. You have to do that. And the other thing is, don't just give me a wall of text. What is it that I need to do? You could have put in here and said exactly this, which is you want to call deserialize on an object once all the deserialization activities are done, if it implements this interface, following our details on the whole deserialization process if you're curious. But you don't need, I didn't need all this. All I needed to know is, there's an interface in CSLA, has this method on it. if somebody has a business object that implements that interface, you need to call that once your deserialization is done. So now I need to go into my formatter and just have a detection in there to say, if the code that I'm generating is for an object that implements this interface, just add a call to this at the end of the deserialization process. That's it. So, yeah, LLMs are great at pumping out a whole bunch of text and code and all that other stuff. But it's like, and I get he had this done for another case to just show like how the whole thing works. I didn't need to see all this. I really didn't. It was actually unhelpful to get this wall of text where it's like, this is an issue. And one of the things I need to do is I need to create a .github repo that has all my pull request issue templates in it and not have them in every repository on my GitHub organization. And then have that show up for all these, because that would have at least had this template that showed up to say, what is the setup? What is, what are the steps to show the error? Because this is technically a bug. And in fact, I should label it as a bug while I'm here, because it is a bug. And then do we have a milestone? We do have a 2.2, I guess. Sure, we'll throw it on that. It's one thing I don't like about GitHub is that it doesn't have a great place to get to the milestone from there. Yeah. And then if I go to NuGet, that should be 2.1 out there. Yeah, okay. So I'm just kind of like, you don't need to put all this out there. Or at least say this is here purely for reference purposes. But then have that template there and have it not copied into every single one of my repositories. But if you have it in your .github repo, that will automatically flow into all of your repositories. At least that's the way I understand it. So I need to remove them from any of the repositories I currently have and then just put them in the one, and then it'll work from there. And that would have forced, I think, Rocky to be a little bit like, okay, what is it that I'm actually trying to do? And then it'd be like, you didn't follow the template, So anyway, that's what I'm going to work on next. I think at this point, that'll work so I can finally close out this issue, which is good. Who interdicted to you? I think you meant introduced you. Interdicted is a little different. Who introduced you to coding and software engineering? The first experience, I actually had, I remember being young, and I don't know how my dad got this, but we had one of the first literal Pong Odyssey, and I wish I would have kept that. That would have been a collector's item. I remember playing Pong when I was a kid, a little bit here and there. I think it actually died. It didn't last very long. I don't know if it was a knockoff or what. But I remember playing that, and then I don't know when, but I started hearing about these things called computers and being a little fascinated with it. And I think the time that I really started getting into it was when I was in 7th grade. My math teacher had an Apple IIe. I don't remember whatever. It was an Apple II something. It had the floppy disk thing that you put floppy disks that flopped. And I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked. Though that didn't push me into, like I said, I ended up becoming an electrical engineer by degree, even though what I really probably should have done is got a degree or like major minor in comp sci math or something like that. Oh well, you learn. But my path made itself correct, so to speak. But I definitely remember that I would spend time after, I'd literally stay after school to spend time to work on it. I learned how to do simple basic programs. You've entered you're in a dungeon and you can walk into a room and there's 2 different ways you can go. And so there was also how do you keep state of what somebody's typing into a program and then how do you generate random numbers, hit points, and all that other stuff. And then it was also cool because I was learning some pre-algebra stuff at the time. And because it was all algorithmic, like you just needed to know your cofactors or whatever those terms were. You could just say, hey, for this equation, just give me those two values and I'll tell you what the answers are. And I was like, something just hit, and that was a very powerful thing in my mind. I think what I realized was I probably should have been a software developer from that point on, but I definitely realized computers were going to be a part of our lives. You know, it was just a very clear thing in my head. And I said to myself, well, because I was still like typing like this, that I also said, when I get into high school, I'm going to take a typing class because I want to learn how to type fast. And so I did. I can actually, well, let's see. Let's put me on the spot here. Typing test. This is a little, we'll just do this and see how I do. What did I do? 74. Yeah, it felt a little slower. I usually do around like 70 or 80. And in high school, I remember we had like more of the electronic clackety clack. They're the ones with the IBM that had the ball that would spin around and you type. And I was averaging about 50 or 55 words a minute. But it was not because I wanted to be a typer, like typing. It was called Secretary 1 was the class, which is so stereotypical, is terrible. But I took it because I wanted to learn how to type. And I think it was very beneficial to me as a software developer to have, you know, those kinds of skills. And I took a couple of computer classes in high school, but they were so like, they really didn't know what they were trying to do. And, you know, because it was so new, they were just trying to come up with a couple of classes for software, and they were just not, they weren't the greatest. But I took them, and there were some things I did that were interesting. I would say 7th grade. That's where the inspiration kicked in. And from that point on, even though there was like different paths leading to where I went, that's what hooked me. That's what grabbed me. Okay, so I will merge in this branch. I will be done with this issue, not this one, but this one. And yeah, that's it for this stream. It's been a long one. So I want to thank everybody who's been watching live or in the future. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. I would really appreciate it. If you've already subscribed, I appreciate you for doing it. And I love the conversations too. I do enjoy yapping, so I don't mind that. I will probably do an Alien Rogue Incursion stream this afternoon. My voice is still not too shot, and I'm still feeling okay, so I might do that and get the crap scared out of me. So that should be kind of fun. And I will probably do a coding stream again either tomorrow morning or Tuesday morning. So if my road to recovery still keeps going the way it is, I think I'm back on track. So with that, I am done with this stream. Thank you all for watching. Take care, and I hope to see you in the future.